Hello and welcome to the Olimoleague Monthly Finals for June. We're doing a few of these matches today, and we're going to be starting on the round of 8, the quarterfinals, with the blue Terran in the bottom right, Cure, who is sending SCVs out across the map, and the red Zerg in the bottom left, Solar. Best of 3 in the first round in this round of 8. Semi-finals would be best of 5, and finals best of 7 a day. And I've heard that these are some pretty cool matches, although we've got proxy racks coming down, so maybe someone lied to me. If they do turn out to be cool, of course, hello YouTube, how you guys doing? We'll continue to push over here. Please hit that like button. Let's spread the joy. Let's get those interactions up, and let's get all sorts of people viewing the content. And of course, if you really like it, and you know, then subscribe to the channel as well by subscribing. You help us out too. We're actually on our way to 25,000 YouTube subs. I've mentioned this a couple of times, but at 25k, we will put a work in progress to do a YouTube-only special Korean set of matches. Well, I think we're going to do like a $1,000 Korean tournament just for YouTube, which means the players can actually... We can probably get some really good players because it's very little time commitment because we can do everything at once, because I'm just going to cast it for YouTube after, right? So consider helping us out with that. Now, as we do get into Golden Wall and Q, not just going to go for the 1 racks, we're going to go 1, 2, and 3 racks in the early stages of this series. So, very aggressive, and Solar is not actually scouting up there. He's just parking his second Overlord out the front, so he gets a little bit of a pre-warning. If an SCV or anything comes into range, he can already start to pull some drones down here and get those on the way. Here's Q. Third rack's about to finish in just a few moments' time. And he's already going to start pushing forward. This Overlord will then go for the high ground position. He sees the SCVs. And again, what does that allow him to do? Well, okay, he actually decides to go mine the back. So Solar's going to go for the defense where you don't actually defend. You just give up the natural. And he's going to start looking to take a hatchery down over here instead. You do let this hatchery finish because you kind of need it to buy time, right? You kind of need to say, hey, I want you to attack this and waste time attacking this. Otherwise, the Terran can just go straight up into the main base. And then they have a very good time, kind of like this. Obviously, this comes at a risk because then Solar is able to keep a hatchery alive if the Marines don't kill it. And kind of like what Q's do, putting himself on the ramp, has options to maybe keep dealing damage to that low ground. But really is looking to pressure in here, waiting to have a bunker to make sure he has somewhere to fall back to. 2 Queens will pop out. There's already Lings on the natural expansion as well. As one of the Marines goes down, I think he loses a second before he gets it in the bunker. That's a lot of Marines already lost here. 2 Marines early. It's not a bad start for just the 2 Zerglings. The problem is the bunkers are up, and they're up in very good numbers. So what do you really do here? Solar continuing on. A few Lings look like they will dive in. Some of the SCVs will go down. I mean, the Queen will continue to fight fight this fight, but it's pretty low HP. So the poor little Queen not really looking like it's going to be able to stand around forever. And then you've got these units still moving up into this main. Ling speed when it finishes, I mean, you've got 2 bunkers to kill. Then you've got another one on the low ground. It's going to cost you a lot of units as Solar moves out onto the map. I kind of like what he's doing. He's going to set up the mining in the middle. This is quite expensive to send those drones over there, but then he's going to give himself a chance to maybe surround this army, intercept reinforcements, or potentially go across the map as well. Not sure how much he would really do across the map with just speedlings. This is obviously getting very interesting very quickly, as we do have our few extra Marines of Q still just building up, poking to the front. The Marines in the main base of Q are coming in as well. The Queen of Solar backs away just a little bit into the main base, drops down and inject. And the Zergling's going to run forward, kind of thinking that they might want to get a surround on those Marines. They don't go for it just yet. Now they will dive in, and well, that's actually a good few Marines picked off. Still nothing happening with the gap created in the middle. Oh, no, I lied. There's a few Lings around the side, intercepting reinforcements. And Solar's just so good, I didn't even realize. So it's pretty nice. He is stopping reinforcements, but there's still 8 Marines and 3 bunkers, right? So even stopping the reinforcements, there's already kind of a lot set up over there. As these other Lings come in, these Marines go down, and just going to be having both the Marines in the bunker continue to pick away at this natural expansion. Again, plenty more Lings continuing up from Solar, with a few of them going to go across the map to counter as well. I mean, the thing is, these bunkers don't do anything, right? Like, yes, they contain you, but then you've got a hatchery over here. They don't actually deal damage anywhere. And that's what's so interesting about this position is, yeah, there's just nothing at home because this was 3 racks and so many bunkers. He's never taken gas until just now. Secure has no factory or anything. That's a lot of SCVs consistently off the line to repair those Devos. There's this hatchery. It's going to go down because it gets target fire, but that means 3 Marines again, right? He's actually going to get 1 Marine. He comes back. He gets the bunker before the salvage. I feel like this is pretty bad for Q, honestly. Am I being crazy? More Lings going across the map. The Marines are going to come out, but this is it, by the way, in terms of Marine count. He's going to have a bunch of them caught because there's so many Lings here. This is really bad for Q. He's not going to make this work at all. GG. And Solar has a very fun defense here on Golden Wall. You can see his plan. He's building up the Baneling Nest, and with that, he can bust through here guaranteed. It is GG for that reason, right? You bust through here, guaranteed to kill workers. You know, this factory still not even on the way, or it was just about started. You've just got nothing, and this just wasn't threatening enough. You know, Q settled for sitting and holding the ramp, and Solar played perfectly around that. And it was just a perfect game from Solar, really. You know, there wasn't really a time or an opportunity where it was like, oh, you know, I think Q is going to win this at this point. A fun defense from our Zerg in the first game of this. We're going to Submarine. Nice small map for game number 2. We're going to see some roaches from Solar. Would be a good question to ask. It's a possibility. You know, it's just such a small map. But even scouting it, you have so little time to prepare. Definitely can make it that little bit tougher. As to the bottom right-hand side, the blue Terran player from Dragon Phoenix Gaming. This is Cure. So game 2 of this best of 3. Very excited to kind of see what Q is going to bring to the table this time around. Obviously opens the series up with the 3 racks. That doesn't really work out too well. You probably move away from that, especially if you're losing to Solo with the 3 racks, because not that Solo is bad, but Solo is kind of renowned for a little bit the fact that he's not so good against proxy racks play. But like I said, he really did everything in the right sort of way last game. He did everything in a really good manner, you know, really thought about how he could utilize the map, really kind of assessed what Q was doing with the proxy racks very well, and was really able to put himself into that very strong position, and then, you know, end the game not so long after. As Q will bring 1 SCV down the ramp and going across to the upper left side of the map, Overlord of Solar just checking around. He has been pretty safe and cautious checking for those proxy racks, so wants to try and make sure he's not going to be proxy racks once again, as we do have an SCV coming across the map is going to be seen by this Overlord, and I think you see that from that direction at this sort of time, and you're really not worried about proxy racks anymore. This Overlord's going to get confirmation of the command center in a few moments, and that means that Solar is 100% safe, and no longer worried if he still was, although I don't think he had any reason to be. There's a couple of Queens and a few Zerglings all starting up in production as well, and there's our factory of Cure, also down in the main base. As the drone will chase the SCV around. Up on the third base location, an extractor goes down. SCV gonna get to nibbling. The Reaper out across to the left-hand side. Is again a grenade. A few Lings pressing forward already. A bit of back and forth here in these early stages, and just going to be seeing the Lings continuing through. The Queen is going to get here and will be there to push the Reaper back. So Reaper gets pushed back down into the center. And just seeing our factory finishing up from Cure in a couple moments here in this main base. And of course, with the engineering bay block, this is fun. Kind of forces Solar into a 2-base play, and it's definitely the kind of map where you could abuse a 2-base play, right? Because any 2-base all-in is a bit weaker. Right? It's just a small map, so if you play against someone who's going to play more aggressively here, you then have your own timings as a Terran almost. I'm not explaining it well, am I, right? Like, if you're going to force Solar into a roach all-in, it's a good map to be doing a roach all-in on because it's short, but if Q is forcing you to kind of be in that position where you might, Q is probably just going to be playing very safely anyway, so then it's playing into Q's game. And then, you know, on the other side, we've seen a lot of builds lately which take only 2 to 4 Hellions, and then you go into extra racks real quick. Don't think that will be this, because this is just going to be Cloak Banshees, so this should be continued Hellion production. But there are some builds recently where you get 4 Hellions and you just go into your super fast racks and you are 2 base for on 3 racks, which is kind of unheard of in TVZ. And you can get really aggressive, you know, from there, and that works obviously very well in this shorter map too. And that's really good at dealing with some of the other 2 base players you can force, such as the faster Lair and the Spire. It's really good against that. So a few options here, basically, based on that block. In the end, it's just going to be Cure playing pretty standard. Hellion Banshee again definitely keeps him safe against the Roaches. And of course, gives him so much potential to deal damage as well with those Banshees. We know that for a fact. And as Cure bringing these out, going to hang around in the center. And a couple of the Queens from Solar still hanging around on the edge of creep spread here. Lair building from Solar in the main base. Third hatchery, there it is, up and running as the Baneling Nest drops down onto the natural. Extra Hellions continuing across. And they're going to join up with these first few Hellions. He's going to lose one, though. A little bit sloppy from Cure as the Queen. The 3 Queens are able to pick up that kill already. Let's dive in. The few drones pull off over to the side, and the Hellions back down around into the center. Banshee comes all the way out to the far left side of this now. But Spores are pretty well positioned. I mean, this is a Spore that also deals with a Liberator. So maybe then there are some openings compared to the Spore being right here. You get over here, for example, out of range of the Spore Crawler, which is perfect. You can design this gas mining. And there are the drones now starting to drop. Hellions still around on the right side, kind of just picking off a Queen for the moment. There's the Spore relocate. But 5 workers killed. Not bad. Definitely, I think, already very acceptable for Cure here. Very happy with that. These Lings are now giving chase off creep, and the Hellions were microed well, so it doesn't lose anything further from that either. And so Cure really is just finding good trade after good trade here in these early stages of game number 2. He's getting more drones as these Hellions get pushed back once again. He's now on 8 workers killed. I mean, Cure keeps this up. He's really threatening to overtake Solar in the worker count, especially as a 3 CCR. But now he's got double Banshee. I love what he's doing. He knows this Spore is here. So he's going to come around here. This gives you access to this half of this mineral line. He's going to check the main base for a couple of openings as well. And this is going to really be a 1-2 punch, because unless Solar's already preemptively thinking, oh, you could come back to my natural from this direction, then I'm in trouble, he's going to lose more drones on the natural as well. So, okay, Overseer's here, and that's going to be the only reason he doesn't lose any more drones. Okay, well, at least... going to be the part of it. A few Queens is continuing up. 11 drones going down. Just going to see both the Banshees getting picked off. And 11 drones killed, right? And that's on top of the damage from earlier. That wasn't a continuing counter, so that's 19 kills in total. A little bit of creep spread being picked away at. So a few creep teamers already going down here. Just going to be seeing 1-1 upgrades. Baneling speed starting from Solar on the front of the natural as well. And we've got Marines and a tank already pushing out up to the top side as a 4th hatchery drops into place. Let's get that 4th hatch into position with the Hellions still coming through. Lings come in, they get us around. Hellions fall. So this push from Q is already arriving. No Bane speed yet, and also no melee upgrades. I mean, Bane speed's a few moments away. It's been kind of a weird game because Solar's just being, you know, he just doesn't have any of the tools he's usually meant to have at least one of at this stage. That tank's going to get a good few Banes. Finally have Bane speed, but the damage he was able to do before that Bane speed kicked in is obviously something that really, really adds to this. As the Marines will chase and kill a drone up on the top side. Roof spams on the Hydro Sten then with the 1-1 melee upgrade still coming through. That's going to be an upgrade advantage for Kyo here very shortly. The fact he kept some Marines alive just means that number is going to be that little bit higher when this 1-1 kicks in and his next round of reinforcements show up, which is right about now. So this continued push is looking scary. Solar's already down heavily in supply compared to Kyo, which is not good. He has got the Hydra Den up. Can he get any Hydras on the map? As he chases, the Queen has to back away. Some tank shots coming down. A second tank going to siege up as well. A few of these Banes continuing to be targeted down, and the Lings still being chased back away over to the left-hand side. Overseer will be picked off as well. The rest of the Lings running through with the Banes. Kyo just lifts off and obviously leaves, just continuing to trade well. And as long as he trades like that, he's going to be in a position where he's just going to be able to keep on pushing. He does drop a 4th base, though. Feels like he doesn't need to necessarily go 8 racks or anything. Especially against Hydras, very hard to end the game. So much more preferred to actually just go 4 bases and really build up from there, get into a much higher siege tank count, rather than just kind of one factory kind of siege tank production trying to end the game. As these medevacs back around over to the left, and now 2 more medevacs all the way up to the top side. So 2 medevacs up to the top. Going to head into the main or drop behind the mineral line as well. There's the Marines. Do grab the Overlord here. Lings, Banes, double Hydras as the Extractor goes down. Spore Crawler gets picked off as well. The rest of these are a couple of Lings already going down. We're just going to be seeing Hydras being picked away at as well. A couple of Spore Crawler shots already coming in as the rest of this Marine tank medevac army comes out over to the left-hand side. Cure going to rotate into the center, and as these Marines move down the ramp, a few more creep teamers are being picked away at. Just gets picked up. Tank still there, firing up a storm with these shots, and again, just all these positions are so good for Terran too, right? Just all of these ramps you can push up, and that's the issue with Submarine. If the Terran can get a good start, the momentum can really be a killer. You know, all these choke points you can set up on. And I feel like it's not a map where, you know, you can absolutely make some rounds happen as a Zerg on this map. It's just a beautiful micro as well. Great Marine target fire on the Banelings. It's one of those scenarios where if you just fall behind, how do you have the units to loop around and to flank in and to then, you know, create that opportunity, right? That's part of the issue. As these extra couple of Banes continue to drop, the Lings still trying to chase into this. A few more Banes going down as well. The Hive is on its way up, about halfway along. A couple extra Banes getting shot down. Hydra's also wanting to get in over here as the rest of these Marines are going to come into play. So they're going to come on through and just going to be seeing now the rest of these Marines moving back. Again, it's just reinforcements after reinforcements, right? And Cure, well, I will say Cure's stacking up a bit of money. If there's a way back in this game from Solar, it's definitely going to be helped by the fact that there could potentially be some macro errors. Well, the rest of the Marines coming through, Lings and Banes coming forward. The rest of these Banes go up the ramp. It's going to be setting up there. Another Baneling gets picked off and still seeing creep spread. Pushing now down through the middle. Feelings up to the top. Hydras still picking their way through these rocks. So the rocks will go down. And again, the rest of these Marines and the medevac out to the top side. These feelings are going to get picked away at very quickly. So they go down without anything really at all, as this drone gets picked off as well. And now going to stem down, going to get rid of a few of these queens. The creep team is going to go down as well. And this is obviously the powerful part too. You just kind of, you know, fighting on two different sides. Back at home, you've got your entire siege tank line building up. And as Kyo gets very close to maxing out, he starts to push on the map. Nice to push just before your max, because that means you've already got reinforcements still building, so you will have reinforcements ready. So if the Zerg kind of wins a fight, you've already got some units at home, rather than being in the middle of a production kind of round already still. So it's kind of a fun way of, it's a fun thing to think about when you're playing Terran, kind of what you will have at home, and, you know, using that to decide when you might want to push out and how much you bring sometimes if you are maxed out. Marines just going to be continuing to fight. A few of these Banes still going down. Tank fire everywhere. Yeah, it's kind of feeling hard to be positive for Solar in this. Those are amazing blinding clouds. It's just not going to be enough. There's so many Marines on the ground. And that's going to be a game being called a single G from Solar. Wow. But, yeah, this really was just hyper aggro from Cure. Got to a good start. Don't forget, those Banshees and Hellions put him in amazing position. The amount of drones he was able to kill there was obviously really, really good. And once you kill that many workers, you're already in a really good spot. And with the size of the map, the push just started and it never stopped. And Q never made a mistake. He never took a big Baneling hit. He never, you know, there was never any counter-aggression that Solo was able to get off in the game. And so Q was able to just run away with the game. And that's going to be tied up 1-1 in this final map. Going to be on Ice and Chrome. It's a nice big map as well. As on the top right-hand side, the blue Terran player from Dragon Phoenix Gaming. This is Cure. Up against the red Zerg in the lower left-hand side, we have got Solar. Alrighty, so Cure versus Solar, game number 3. And obviously two very different games so far, based off the fact that first game was Proxirac, second game was really just Hellion Banshee dealing good damage into some very good control of the bio tank afterwards. And now we get ourselves this third and final map, which is very, very big. And this is a map where a lot of Terran players have been approaching this with playing some mech. This really has become, I would say, almost... I feel like out of games that I've watched, personally, this has been like... maybe like, not super crazy, but maybe like 60-40 or 70-30, with the 70% or 60% being mech play. There's definitely that tendency toward it, but there's not been, you know, some players have still played some bio on it. Although a lot of the bio games, I've definitely been kind of from when the map first came out, and then people figured it out a bit, and now it feels like we are seeing more mech and only mech. So that's what Cure brings for us here. The reason for mech is it's just such a large map. You get a lot of bases, and it's actually quite easy to hold these bases and take extra bases with mech. But the bigger issue is it's just not good for bio, because there's just no good pushing location. You know, wherever you push, there's good surround options, there's really good counter-attacking options. All the bases are very far set back, right? So you've got this entire middle of the map that's very spacious, and taking any expansion doesn't really push you that much closer to any of your opponent's expansions, which is generally what you want with bio, to be able to start up that push and to keep that push going. And that's just not really... it just doesn't really exist. It just doesn't... you know what I mean? It just doesn't really... yeah, you just don't really have a push with bio. So we'll see what we do. What we do usually see, I would say, is if we do see bio, as this Reaper comes in, Nelly gets a drone. If you do see bios, you usually see a push into this base here, which is the 4th, and it comes down this way, and it is probably the best because you can kind of cover choke points. If you get here, yes, you can be surrounded, but it's hard for the Zerg to get over here. The Zerg can get here, but then you can control 2 very good choke points, and you're on top of a base. But if you don't make something happen on the 4th, once you get past the 4th base, it just becomes tougher as the game goes on, right? So then you really have like that one push, which doesn't have that issue, and then every other push becomes problematic. So yeah, well, I guess we'll see whether this is going to be bio or mech here. To start us off, there's a couple of Hellions on the way out. Marine on the rack. Starport is about halfway along in the main base as well, as a Reaper pops the Queen up with the grenade. A little bit boppity action. Bit boppity bippity boppity action. Just going to be seeing some creep tumors going to start being placed to push out onto the map as well. Link speed is still just coming up to completion here fairly shortly. Or fairly soon. Again, there's that fusion core building in the main. Tech lab drops down on the starport. It's already getting that up and running. Just going to be seeing the Zergling speed going to complete in a few moments' time. That grenade pops the Hellion off over to the side, and just going to be seeing a few of these drones going to be picked away as well. So a couple workers down and chasing for a couple more. 3 workers killed. Not bad when it's the first couple of units, right? And with no link speed here, it's only for 1 Hellion. So for 1 Hellion, 3 drones, this early in the game especially, I think you take that. Obviously, the earlier you kill drones, the better, right? Because the more impact it has on the economy. You know, A, the Zerg's on a lower worker count earlier in the game, and B, you know, you kill them sooner, they don't get to mine before they die. You know, that kind of logic. So, yeah, for 1 Hellion on the first 2 Hellions arriving, 3 drones is amazing. Gets 2 more for free here now. With that battlecruiser starting, Kira is very likely to then play mech from this. Of course, you can play bio off the BC, but it's not the most common anymore. It definitely had a resurgence. It was kind of a thing for a few days, and then maybe like a couple of weeks. I say a few days, and to me, a few days is just like actually like 3 weeks of StarCraft casting, apparently. But yeah, this is going to be mech as he takes extra casts. But yeah, the bio follow-up really did die out again, and like I said, with this map, it's no surprise we're seeing a BC. It's no surprise that this is likely to be mech. It's no surprise we're getting the gases to confirm that this is going to be mech. Here has more Hellions rallying out to the left-hand side with that Baneling Nest from Solar. Just a few moments away from finishing here. The lair completes on the main base. And the Reaper and the Hellions come through, and a couple of these creep tumors already being picked off. So getting rid of some of this creep spread here. Cleaning out a little bit of space. And now these units from Cure backing away a little bit off over to that right-hand side. A couple extra Hellions are going to set up and looking to push through into the center. And just again, cleaning up creep. That's really nice on a map like this, right? Again, large map. One of the big issues with large maps is if that creep gets out of control. So that's great. And as he trades out these Hellions, you've got to remember more Hellions will be on the way. This isn't like you're playing bio, and those Hellions are super valuable map control, because you're making more of them off the factories, and that means you're going to retake the map control with your extra Hellions that show up. EC teleports in, but currently inactive. I mean, real opportunity to have dealt damage as well because the queens were all pulled away to the third base. So this was a real missed opportunity from Kure, just busy elsewhere, look, you know, paying attention to something else. But this should have been his priority because, again, it's not every day. I mean, if the queens were there, it would have been bad that he didn't pay attention to the BC. And then when the queens aren't there, it's really bad because he has so much potential for damage. He gets 6 kills anyway, and that was with the BC being inactive for so long. Imagine that BC was active the whole time. Queen's out of position. That could have been so much worse. That could have been so much more. He could have already been, you know, starting to make the narrative, how is Solar getting back into this game? Instead, I feel like the narrative right now is just, you know, okay opening from Kure, kind of what you expect. Solar's on his way to a response on everything, right? He's got the Spire on the way up. He's still got the Queens already fighting off the BC. This BC's taking a lot of damage, by the way. And yeah, he's about to get a 4th base. So again, the Spire is definitely a big one and definitely needed, especially when there'll be more than one battle cruiser in the game. So yeah, the narrative really is, I guess, just how well will Solo deal with this mech play. As Kure just set up a position where he's getting a few depots up this left-hand side. And he's actually just going to fly BC number 2 across the map, which is, of course, the right call. We've just been talking about the Spire. If those Spire units come out and your BC is just teleported, it's going to die 100%. Now it starts to teleport away. And it will be Mutalisks, so Solo will play for the Mutas here. Obviously, we used to see this kind of being Corruptors. But he actually never built a Rotron with this, so it will just be Mutas with the Lingbane to combine in as well. And again, this has been kind of the way to play it lately, and especially on the larger maps, these Mutas really have so much space and so much room to, you know, pin the Terran in and then to, you know, expand themselves, or, you know, for the Zerg to expand themselves. You know, and suddenly if you're expanding all over the map yourself as Solar and, you know, Kure's only on 3 or 4 bases, you can afford to trade kind of badly with the Mutalisks, right? You can afford to make some Mutas that don't do as well as you might want them to. A bit of a shame they pulled back. I actually feel like he might have gone here to kill the BC, but of course no way for Solar to have known that, and it is right to go back and to force that recall. It's definitely the safer play and much better play in general. Factory will just, I mean, extra factories just building up too as Kure continues to serve into this mid-game. Couple of Yamatos going to go off, and that's 2 Mutalisks shot out of the sky immediately. So 2 Mutalisks already going down there, as we do see the Overlord speed as well. Solar making sure he's got the Overseer to kind of tag along with the Mutas just in case of Widow Mines. A fairly cheap way to help zone out those Mutalisks, of course. We've seen Widow Mines be very, very effective against those Mutas, especially low Muta counts when they kind of, and especially Muta counts like this, which are trying to dive into mineral lines, I guess, and trying to kind of, you know, find ways in to, again, keep the Terran busy, because that's exactly what these Mutas are meant to do. Kure will build more than 3 BCs as well. He will continue with that, and I think that's just something we've been seeing a lot of against the Muta star, because then the BCs can actually teleport into Mutas as a defense, and they can then play pretty well defensively on top of a base when they can have SCVs to repair them pretty much instantly. So yeah, we've seen this kind of become the new meta, right? 3 BCs used to be the cutoff point, but with Mutas on the map, it definitely seems that people are a little bit happy to kind of build more. I think the difference just is with 3 BCs versus 4 against Corruptors, it really makes no difference in terms of how many Mutas, how many Corruptors you would kill. You kill like 1 extra Corruptor every time because you're only getting Yamato kills. With BCs versus Mutas, the damage output of the BCs after Yamatos is actually pretty significant to get kills. We just saw it here, right? So more BCs make a lot more sense in this scenario than they might usually. Of course, you've got to find that right balance though, because a BC is a very expensive unit. And if you keep building the BCs all game long, you're going to get to a point where it's like, oh, that's not actually good for me. Like, at some point, you've got to realize you can't just build battle cruisers forever. And then you need a ground army as well. Because BCs do a good job and they fill a good role. But too many of them, you know, that is a phrase that exists. Too many BCs. Especially if Solo goes like very ground heavy, then the BCs can be overwhelmed. Well, the BCs will clean up eventually, right? But not quickly. And it's like kind of weird point. Like if you have 20 BCs, yeah, maybe the ground army doesn't matter how big it is. It's going to get cleaned up pretty quick and you're going to be fine. But if you have a ground army, as he loses a BC here, if you have a ground army that kind of just overwhelms you on like 4 or 5 BCs, or, you know, I guess 4 is fine, but like 5 or 6 BCs, then the BCs really do take a while to clean up. Then you find yourself on like 2 bases, and then you find the next ground army coming in to kill you, or a remax on air units, and then your BCs just aren't going to do well enough. As we do have the Mutas and Corruptors are going to continue to make their way out around the top side. So Spears and Corruptors to the top. Rax is going to get taken down pretty much right away. So Rax will fall with the hatchery to the far left-hand side. Again, Hellions, a tank, and Thors. All out in the bottom right as well. Lings, Banes, Roaches, Ravagers. Moving into the middle of the map here. Just going to be seeing these Banes coming through. Tanks sieged up. That's what I mean. Right now, there is a ground army to deal with this. But imagine he continued to invest into so many more of those BCs. You know, then maybe there wasn't that extra couple of Thors. Maybe there is that kind of... It's a fine balance, right? Of just about having enough and it looking like a pretty easy defense to suddenly not quite having what you need. And then everything overwhelmed. Because if you get on top of the Thors, they all go down. I mean, that's 30 supply of Thors just sitting there, right? So if those Thors die, that's pretty serious. So yeah, it is about having that right balance. And that's where Kira is at with the army. Continue to push down. Tank sieging up. The Banes rolling forward. Going to go toward those Hellbats. A few of the Hellbats being picked off. And again, Tank, Thor, BC. Continuing into the center of the map. A few more Corruptors joined together as well. And still just seeing... There's a couple of Corrosive Baals go down. You're still just seeing this army of Solar continuing to kind of set up defensively. I feel like the Mutas kind of gave up quite early in this game. I know obviously a few of them just died quite recently, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel like the Mutas really achieved their role of really denying the Terran getting a lot of bases up, because the Terran did just go straight to 5 bases here. It doesn't feel like he was being slowed down at all. Hasn't felt like he's ever been in trouble against these Mutas. So that said, the Muta threat has also kept the BCs at home for the most part, right? The BCs have not had much chance to get across the map and find their own mineral lines to harass and take advantage of. So that's also a pretty big feature as we see tanks continue to push forward. Siege up, BCs coming in as well. Again, the extra Corruptors and tanks all on the way out, and this army of Cure continues to push down to the bottom left-hand side. Well, a couple of tanks weren't siege, but man, this is Solar kind of rolling in all from one direction. And that's really not too pretty, as we're going to see the rest of these Thors also setting up in the center. Tanks pushing through as well. Ultralisk Cavern in the main base. Evolution Chamber in the main. And there are BCs going off once again. And a few Corrosive Baals going to land on that siege tank. And still just seeing Cure wanting to keep on pushing down into this base. It's a very slow push, though. Obviously, this given Solar a lot of time while he's mining a good amount of 87 workers. This time comes in from the top left and the bottom left. Position we talked about much earlier on. Going into play here, and we do see the Banes rolling in. Some softening up damage, and now there's no Hellbats here. The Lings will do a fantastic job getting on top of siege tanks and Thors. That is going to be the cleanup. So Solar cleans up. Nice shutdown there as the rest of the Hellion tank army setting up on the front line. We do see Lings and Corruptors out to the far right, and well, Corruptors actually going to come straight through, and this is going to be a planetary fortress. Already taking some damage. Caustic Spray down. The rest of the units here are going to zone to stop anything getting in range to push the Corruptors back. All of those extra Banelings morphing in as Siege Tanks Liberators building here. Extra Ultras are on the way still. This base did go down, and now Ling Bane runs in. No planetary fortress. All of these SCVs are in trouble. And Kira just did not really have a way to get over here and to shut this down. He didn't really have any anti-air anyway, right? Like, he was only building siege tanks, which was perhaps the problem. And of course, with siege tanks, you can't just run into a position and fight. You need to slowly siege up and leapfrog forward, else you do find yourself in trouble. Now 7-8 Ultralisks on the way from Solar. And that's obviously his next stage. And again, this is not designed to be an efficiently trading army. This is meant to be very inefficient, fast-moving, able to go in multiple places, easy to split up, and easy to kind of keep headbutting into different locations that the Terran tries to take. And that, as the Zerg, should then allow you to overwhelm the Terran somewhere along the line here. That would generally be the expectation. Corruptors coming up, and they're going to go and, well, fire a couple shots off on her hacks. I thought they might try and Caustic Spray down this planetary, but this side is not worth it. I mean, extra missile turrets finishing, and that's obviously one of the big things that was just missing before. Now Bane's going to come back to this planetary. Oh, that's not good. That's so many Banelings, and he doesn't get the kill. Planetary Fortress survives, and that's a misplay from Solar, as the Banelings do not pick that up. That is actually massive. That is actually really massive. How does Solar mess that up? Well, that is crazy. Just maybe misread the number of Banes he had, I suppose. Here we go. He's going to try and go for the rekill. I mean, okay. This is just Kyo didn't repair with every SCV he could have done. He could have done much more here. So that was a little bit lazy. He does have a CT to replace. I think it's good that he forces another round of Banes in anyway. That's the main goal. Another, round of Banelings had to be used up. And he actually saves a lot of the SCVs once again. So great job, great effort by Kyo, as he does just then again replace that position. And he continues to hold on 5 bases now that he's got this top side 12 o'clock location on lockdown. Great Aspire going to finish from Solar in the natural expansion, so that's going to be done in just a few moments' time. So finishing up the Great Aspire, and with the Great Aspire complete, and we've got a few Lings up to the top. Again, Tanks and Thors are going to make their way through to the middle of the map here as well. So they're going to continue down into the center with this Orbital. Moving out, he's going to land slap bang in the middle, with the rest of the Banelings on the way too. Go, big blind clouds start us off. The Vipers are massive in the start of this engagement. Wow, so many tanks have just been completely useless in this fight. As I do see the Ultra count will dry up a little bit toward the end here, but Solar's already rebuilding 5 Ultras, 64 Zerglings. He's maxed out again as Kyo. He will not max out again that quickly, and even as he starts to get some supply back, you've got to remember so much of that supply is caught up in his base in production, right? It's not here right away, and that's a pretty big that's a pretty big factor, as well as the couple of libs do move their way forward. The Thor's setting up, the tanks all here on the right hand side. This Ultralisk Solar going to go for a little bit of a move in. Missile turret taking a few shots of damage, and more Zerglings of Solar are going to go out over to the far right hand side. Tanks, Thors, well, they're going to push forward. I mean, if this run by can work, then brilliant, but I don't see you actually killing this base. I mean, SCVs are there to repair. Tanks are caught while sieging, so the Banes make a bit of progress. Big blinding clouds all over the army again. Oh, these blinding clouds have been absolutely huge. Both times now, they've hit just the majority of the siege tanks, and this one, it was actually like every tank, and so the Banes were able to get right in. A lot of splash damage. 13 SCVs go down. The Planetary survives over here at least. We'll see another Ultra trying to make its way forward. Solar picks up on it and brings it back. Solar's struggling to get remaxed himself, but obviously Kyo is so far away from being maxed out. 136 supply from him. It's not really looking too hot right now. Extra gases in the front. I mean, this is just an orbital. This base is extremely vulnerable. This base is very easy to jump on with Lings. You're going to have to consistently leave units here to defend, and even then it's going to be so easy for Solar just to run a couple Banes in there and blow up. I mean, siege tank friendly fire is a thing too, so a lot to worry about as Spine's setting up as Solar continues to expand. We've not really talked about Solar's bases. You go up to 5 bases very easily, you go up to 6 bases and 7 bases now. All of this without really an issue. The one time it was an issue was these couple of pushes right here, but even that, it didn't really slow Solar from expanding. It just made sure that, Solar was just very patient getting the army up before he engaged into those fights. So yeah, it didn't really stop him from expanding. So again, Solar's economy this game has been fantastic throughout. These Hellions get a few kills. You can see eco advantage Solar's for the last 10 minutes. Even in a slight amount now. I'm not sure if that's just mules dropping down on a fresh base, and as they fade away, maybe we'll see that come back into Solar's advantage. I mean, we should. He's 14 workers up. He has more bases to mine from. This base is nice, fresh base for some SCVs, and that might be part of that comeback. But you can see again, a lot of this was just mules and the timing of it. Maybe, drones transferring as well. And there's so many infestors here, and they've got neural parasites, so that's been Solar's next investment, and he's going to neural a Thor. He should try and neural up the rest of the siege tanks. I feel like he could have actually gotten closer before he neuraled, because he kind of gave himself away, so he loses a lot of the infestors right away. Don't think it really matters, as Kyo is going to have the rest of his army surrounded, and these last couple of Thors go down. He loses Solar every single infestor, but they kind of did that job already, and this base is chased away. These Ultras are going to run up to the top. They actually are going to find the SCVs on the way over, and they're going to get some kills there. Planetary Fortress is again unlikely to really last all too long, although SCVs, if they get the repair, but then the SCVs are going down, right? And then it doesn't matter if you have the bases if you have no SCVs, and there is a point where you can rebuild SCVs as a Terran. That point does not seem too great right now, when a lot of your CCs are lifted. You're down 40 workers, so even if you do start rebuilding, it's going to take you multiple minutes to get back to the worker count you want to be at. Tanks will continue to drop this Thor not down just yet. The Ultras gets picked off though. The tanks and a few more kills as the Lings make their exit, and Solar is just going to ramp up for one more attack. The 8 Infest is in production. Obviously, that's going to be a big help. So Infest is coming up. A lot more Banes from Solar out over the right-hand side. Going to rally across as the Ling Bane Ultra Army of Solar continues to set up. A few Hellions over here grabbing the Zergling right away, and the Orbital Command of Cure is going to go move into position on this front base. The Lings and the Banes and Ultras as well. All of this setting up too as we have the couple of Infestors out over around the side. Don't know what these couple of Infestors taking damage for. As Liberators are going to get Neuroed. Thors as well. The tanks, yeah, I mean, yeah. This is going to be too much Zerg, and Cure is going to type out GG to give Solar the series. 2-1. Solar advances through to the semifinals of this Olimoleague Monthly Finals. Of course, all Olimoleague replays available on patreon.com/Olimoleague if you want to get your hands on them yourselves. I think it's from $2 a month at the moment. So do check that out, of course. That's where these replays are from. And with that, let's go into more of those replays for the semifinals.